Okay, so now we're ready to put the finishing touches to our working drawing. As part of that, we need to label all the parts on our 3D drawing. And then from labeling all those parts, then we can put our parts list as a table down in this space. So first things first, we'll zoom in on this box and we'll start labeling all the parts. Now to do that, we go into annotation and then we add balloons, okay, little balloon labels. So if I am to click my arrow on that part and then position my balloon wherever I think looks good as a layout, it calls that balloon number 2. The reason it calls it number 2 is because that's the second part that I drew. So it sort of auto labels them for you. We'll go for that back part. And that's number 1 because that's the first part that I drew. It wants to call this one number 2 as well. So there's no point in cluttering your drawing up and having those in twice. So we'll delete that soon. This part here, I think we could put it out there, might be best. Part number 3. We've got the base. I think if I put that there, it's going to go across my drawing too much. So I think I can label my base down here. We've obviously got the bar. I think I'll position the bar in there. Okay, so we've got our short ends labeled, we've got our long sides labeled, we've got our base labeled, we've got our middle part labeled, and we've got our bar labeled. So we've got everything labeled. If for some reason you don't like the order that they've come in, for example, you maybe want this one to be called number 1, so you just click on that balloon, that brings up the menu on the left. You go to the item number section, you change that to text, and then you can type in whatever you want in that balloon there. So at the minute it's 2, and you can change that to whatever number you want that to be. So you can change the order of the numbering. Just remember, I want to get rid of that one because I don't need number 2 labeled twice, for that just clutters up the drawing. So I click it, it highlights as blue, and then I can delete that. So I've now got all the parts labeled. Sometimes you've got parts which you can't actually see. So a little way of fixing that is you can go for this sort of drawing here where they show all the hidden work, but that can become a little bit cluttery. So it's up to you whether your particular drawing you think you need that or not. So it's another option, having your hidden lines showing or having your hidden lines removed. So I'm going to just remove my lines. Okay, so now we are ready to start putting together our parts list table. We know what all our parts are labeled. So we go now to Firefly, and we go to the technology page on Firefly. We open up the Solidworks section, scroll down until you get to where it says parts list and material cutting list for the working drawing, and here's the spreadsheet here we want to move across. So if I open up that table as a spreadsheet, and here is the table. So it's easiest actually to edit this table in its spreadsheet format here in Excel. So I'll just click enable editing. So I'm now ready to fill in the details on this. Now the yellow row there has been filled as example. So you see we'll have example 1. We'll put the part number in there. We'll put in the name of that part. How many of those parts are there? What's that material? What's that part made from, sorry? What's the thickness of that part? And what's the length and width? And all of these are in millimeters, which you should be able to take from your drawing. So back to my SolidWorks drawing, let's go for part number 1. And part number 1 is here. It's made from 12mm thick plywood. So back to my table. Just now type in the information. It's called part 1. It's a long side. And I've actually got 2 of those because I've got one at the front of the box and one at the back of the box. What's it made from? Birch face plywood. Thickness of the plywood is 12mm thick. Just need to go back and fix my spellings there. the length and the width. So I can go back to my drawing and I can just double check the length and the width of that. So the length is up here, the top, 300, so it's 300 along that side, and in height there it's 80. So back to here, length 300 and its height is 80. Okay, so that's the long sides done. So back now to my drawing. Where is part two? Part two are these shorter ends. Okay, back to my spreadsheet. I can copy a lot of this information across. So if I go there and highlighted it, and then Control C will copy that, and Control V will copy that down. So we're now on to then just amend what I need to amend. So part number two, I'll call that short side. I've got two of those. They're made from bird's face ply. The thickness is 12 millimeters. And now just back to the drawing to double check their dimensions. So they are 130 long that way, and they are 133 in height. So 130 long and 133. You can get confused sometimes as to what is the length and what is the width of a part, but remember this is only a cutting list, so it's not vital. Sometimes it's very obvious which is length and which is width, sometimes it's not, but as long as you've got the two measurements in there, that's fine at the minute. And then, without me wasting your time, you would go through the whole drawing and you would fill all those parts in. I am just going to do the bar, which happens to be part 5, okay, because round cylinders are slightly different. So I will be filling in part 5. What's it called? It's called the handle. How many of them is there? There's one. It's made from aluminium bar. Thickness is 12. Its length, back to the table, it's 276. That's this value here. So its length is 276. And then its width is also 12 because its width and its thickness are the same thing there. Okay, so that's the slight difference with anything that's a bar or a tube. Okay, so we fill in that table. We remember then to delete the example. We don't need the yellow bit in there, that's irrelevant. You can save this spreadsheet somewhere handy in your My Documents so that you've always got it in case something goes wrong. And the last thing in is just to select whatever you need selected. So there's no point in me going all the way down to the bottom of the table. The last few rows are empty there, so you would just be selecting whatever it is you've actually got some useful information in. Right click copy, and back to your Solidworks. I'll just zoom out a wee bit there. Edit, sorry, right, edit, paste, and it always comes in some sort of random position. Just waiting for it to load up. There it comes, top left. Then you can just simply drag that and position that somewhere nice and neat. So I'll try and align the top of it up level there with the top of that working drawing box. And click off that, and that's now got all that information in there for me. So that's pretty much a working drawing as required. We've got our three different views, our plan view, our front view, and our end view. We've got a 3D view. We've got a 3D view with balloons labeling, which then relate down to a completed part list. Obviously in this example, I haven't finished that off. And then we've got our title block, and we've got our third angle projection logo in there, and we've got the correct scale. Let me just double check that scale is correct. Yes, I click on the box around that shape down here and it says 1 to 2, and that's what I've got in here, 1 to 2. So there we are, and that is a completed working drawing which has got all the requirements for full marks. You can simply then just print that out on the school printer as an A3 page. That doesn't need to be manipulated in any way.